got this. We got this, babe. We got this, babe. The kingdom within is what we're doing together now. It's Katia Palmeri and Laura J here today. We are grateful to be with you, and I hope you can join us for a few minutes while we do what we do best, which is be ourselves. How are you, my friend?
I am fantastic. How are you?
I'm good. I am wired because I have been not sleeping a tremendous amount because of what has been flowing through me since we started actually connecting. And I am so grateful that Angela with Freedom Forum Canada actually introduced us when she invited both of us onto the Kevin J. Johnson show. And yes, you were talking about microgreens, which is a business, a side hustle you and your hubby have.
Yes. Coming out of the last 2 years with this uncertainty, it got us thinking about food security and the different systems that run society. And we just decided to take the bull by the horns and created a personal project that ended up being more successful than we could have thought. And it opened our eyes to the possibility of, oh my goodness, we could help others and other communities. And so we're in that process right now as it's all kind of being unfolded.
Super awesome. And then what kind of microgreens do you do? Like what would be the end result that people would get from actually investing energy with you guys?
So we've come up with a couple of systems, and it's a hydroponic indoor farm system because I wanted to be able to grow microgreens indoors and in the kitchen. And soil has its challenges because it brings in some things and bugs and so forth. So I was really looking for something clean. And in doing research, we came upon hemp. And I had no idea this even existed. So we use hemp mats as the medium. So what we do is we have these trays with some spacers. We put the hemp onto the spacer, seed onto the hemp mat. And literally from seed to harvest, you will have full microgreen crops within 8 to 12 days. It is an easy system. A 5-year-old could grow microgreens. And the best part of it is not only do they enhance the flavor of your meal, they bring the highest nutrients to your meal, because microgreens, I found out, have the most high nutrient dense properties out of any phase of the growing of a plant. So it's highly nutritional, easy to grow. And I think for myself, I see this almost like an advance, that it's going to be the appliance of the kitchen. So because you'd want to be able to grow food all year round if you could, and be able to add it to your meals. So that's kind of a little bit of a summary.
Fantastic. Yeah, well, you're talking to a 3rd generation, 4th generation farmer's daughter, granddaughter, great granddaughter.
Wow.
Come from farming people. Like farming matters. And to actually know the roots of our heritage, it's like we're gonna do some programming together around taking the words out of the boxes that have been used to keep us safely separate from one another. And also from ourselves. And so the Kingdom Within podcast, this is kind of like the launch of when we're going to start doing this together now, because instead of me trying to prepare on my own to ride the magic of the moment each week, that I have to get excited for and prepare for and promote, and all of the things that go into making something like this happen, even though it doesn't seem like much, really, it actually energetically is a big investment, especially to do on your own, which is what I've been doing for a really long time. And I never really wanted to be a solopreneur. Like it
Right.
was never about the profits more than the people, it was the reverse. And that's really a hard game to sell others in a world that is so dog eat dog.
Absolutely.
Especially with the competition model of women coming, like competing against one another. And it's just like, you stay away from my man and my business and my family. You know, it's just like, what is this? What kind of world are we living in?
It's so true. So true. And I just wanted to add, because you were saying about the inside world, the inner kingdom, and just to finish off with the microgreens, is that's how I kind of look at the whole food microgreen thing, is that it's health from the inside out. You're actually feeding your cells high energy food, and that's just stimulating the entire energy force of the body. So I think there's a correlation, the symbolic meaning of the seed and how to grow. And
yeah, huge. And then also when you say that, then it makes me think about the microcosm, macrocosm experience of our lives as a small reflection of the whole.
yeah,
That
yeah,
even in a hologram, for instance, like every single pixel within the whole image contains a picture of the whole image within it, just somehow emphasizing only just the one bit that it is part of there. However that works is far more sophisticated than I am, but
it's
so
all just miraculous.
and yeah, so really going inward and looking after the body and really changing our relationship with our body. And actually, I have the book that I've been reading throughout January, Joyriding the Universe. And it's just about really changing that relationship that we have with ourselves and ourselves. Because so oftentimes it's about leaving the body behind and let me rise. You know what I mean, right?
Yeah.
And we're so committed to like making the ascension, and then whatever our history or tradition has told us is the afterlife and the way to get the best result at the end of this one. It's like, well, we actually like live this one fully.
Yeah.
Like, what if we actually gave it everything we've got?
Mm-hmm.
What if we didn't hold anything back? We just gave it
Exactly.
one shot.
What's the real possibility of human being?
Yeah. And then that course that you've actually created with your husband, Peter, talk about how the boxes of language actually play into the formation of our identity, Katia.
So, in doing some of my own discovery, inner world discovery, I was on this awakening journey and really asking the question of who am I? How do I function? What's my life for? And it just opened up this whole world that I hadn't seen. And I'm someone who loves communication. So for me, it's always been about language. And as soon as I learned about language and these boxes of language in particular, it blew my mind, because it actually started to have me see things in myself that were dictating my ways of being and acting. So some of these boxes look like, how it looks to have a marriage, how it looks to be a parent, how it looks to make meals, food, what my thoughts are on sex. So all of these things were kind of blind spots for me. And I didn't really notice and pay attention to how they were really dictating my life. And then I started to really become aware of these constructs that were built in me as a child. So I was taking on my parents' boxes. So it was been, generations of passing along these boxes of language and the ways things were being done.
Yeah.
So it opened up a whole new world in regards to being able to transform that and start to create anew. So what I became very committed to was, how can I create a new future what's that like? And I really got clear that it's in language. It's what I'm committed to, being clear on it, and then creating a new language.
Yeah.
So I'm going to be the creator of what it looks like to be a mother. I'm going to be the creator of what it looks like to be a daughter. And so I was starting to really establish new relationships. And the biggest one I established was with myself. So it starts with each and every one of us.
Absolutely.
That was huge. That was a huge discovery. And I didn't realize actually how prevalent the boxes were. And they still show up. Like different things that come up. And at least now in my awareness, I can pick up on it, which is the greatest thing, because that's how you can transform things. But I think that's what out of everything, I really got clear on these boxes of language that were dictating my ways of being and acting. And then once identifying them, I could transform it.
Yeah, that's absolutely brilliant. And they talk about that in a book I've mentioned to you, The Game of Quantum Syntax Grammar. Because syntax is the way that we combine different words and their meanings to then create an overall gestalt, which is what Joyriding the Universe really talks about a lot. And then another book, oh my God, do you want to know one of the best kept secrets?
Let me see, let me hear.
Okay. Oh my God. Okay, Paulo Coelho's The Alchemist just fell down in that moment. Florence Scovel Shinn's books. Are you familiar with her?
Yes.
Oh my God.
I haven't read anything. I think I've heard a couple of, like, they have some audios on YouTube and they kind of just explain it, but I have not seen that.
Yeah. The Game of Life and How to Play It. Huge. There's the power of the spoken word, the secret door to success. Your word is your wand. It's the sacred sword that rights the pandemic, or the plan to rise above it.
Mm-hmm.
So that is amazing, because the syntax is where it's at with all these boxes. And when I grab my little board, what you were talking about is authority, right? But author I tie, my identity too, is what an authority figure is. Where we vest so much of our identity into who others see us to be. It's like within the hierarchy, we go from being a woman in our private capacity into being a construct of the public, right? Mm-hmm. And so then it's like the government, cops, court, councils, and the corporations all then uphold the image that the top one sets. So then it's like boxes within boxes within boxes of identity, which are called gestalts in Joyriding the Universe, which is why I mentioned it. And then I had mentioned to you about the Santa Claus gestalt.
Yeah.
Boxes upon boxes upon boxes of BS that shape us and then ultimately make us forget that at the heart of it all, in between the de facto government, which is the corporate government that we currently are under the rule of, and the public courts, cops, councils, right in the heart of that, we have to actually put our heart back. Mm-hmm. As men and women that remember where the heart's at. Oh, I bought that last year. Oh my God, there's actually happy are those who dream dreams and are ready to pay the price to make them come true.
Mm. Love that.
Right? So, Katia, do you ever use breathing techniques as a way to call yourself present in the moment?
I have. I've done many types of meditation and breathing techniques, not consistently, but I at times feel compelled. So sometimes in the morning I might do it. I might do it before bed. Yeah, so I've learned a few different techniques, and they seem to really definitely calm the nervous system, and definitely are a great vehicle for presencing, a great technique for presencing.
I love that.
But tell me more. How about you?
Yeah. I don't have as solid a practice as what one might think that I do, except that I do because I practice breathing all day long, all the time. We
You're
all
very
do, right? I'm a very proficient breathing. Women to breathe. So this is actually interesting. So it's just like, what if we started to understand that I am a woman who breathes, which is an activity that I partake in, right?
Right.
Compared to if someone wanted to profit off of me being someone that breathes, I would then be turned into the status of a breather.
Mm-hmm.
And so then as a breather, I am bound by the liabilities, limitations, obligations, debts, and duties applied to the status of a breather. Mm-hmm. So in the box, in the center of all of the big boxes that have littler boxes inside of them, like those Russian dolls, those are like what the gestalts are. Because it's like, we have this insulation of who we think we are. And it actually ties back to Don Miguel Ruiz's 4 Agreements. Are you familiar with that? The Toltec Wisdom Guide to personal freedom. And it literally is like, don't take anything personally. Don't make assumptions. Always do your best and be impeccable with your word. Use your word as the sacred sword. That is literally how we flip the script. Prescriptions from the medical doctors that have been indoctrinated, Indoctrination, which was a documentary title that just says it all. Like, you don't even need to watch the documentary, just for indoctrination, okay? Point taken. No, you can watch it. It's a good one. There's a lot of really good ones, but then where do you put your energy? Which is why it's about breathing. And we actually shared a moment last week when we were connecting, and we've had some really powerful connection opportunities because we've been trying to figure out how to really unite our movements, which is exactly what I was talking about when I spoke on stage, when I got summons for having done so 2.5 weeks after I was there, delivered to my residence where I live with my papa. You know what I mean? Like, the police officer arrived to deliver paperwork, and it's like, he's a retired police officer that delivers paperwork without completing the affidavit of service, which means it was an incomplete filing, which means it's thrown out then and there if they actually heard it, except for the last 2 times they haven't sent a judge. And the 2 times before that, I claimed the right not to attend, so they couldn't do anything to me because I had already claimed the right not to be a surety for my person. And also, I claimed the right to not have to go because standing as a woman, I have no standing in the court, which is why they go and make you take the stand so that you actually have some kind of semblance of a standing within a whole fictional world of statuses, which is what the public is. It's all your reputation status, your relationship status, your employment status, your religious status, your gender status. This is about so much more, and especially when we look at the next generation with the transhumanism agenda, and it's just like, you'll own nothing and be happy because patented things don't own property because they are property. Therefore, it would be true if you look at the Supreme Court of the United States, the patent that was actually passed. Are you familiar with that Supreme Court ruling?
No.
2013, that says that any organism that is altered in their DNA because of a changed message within the RNA that tells the DNA to be other than that which the RNA would have originally told the DNA to be, is then subject to patentability if the synthetic ingredient that is being replicated within the DNA then is other than what the original was, to make it an aboriginal. And then aboriginal status is how they turn a man or a woman with a standing into a status instead, because then you have your different statuses and your status cards that you have to carry with you in order to get the benefits. But they're actually liabilities because of what is required to actually have the status or the personage.
Wow.
Right?
Wow.
Yeah. Yes.
That's a lot to digest, actually. Like, it's a lot to take in.
Right.
Because it's not something that we're taught. It's not something that's really spoken about. So the fact that you're bringing this to light is so important.
Yeah.
Because it does come down to, like you said, the status and how we identify ourselves, how we've identified ourselves up till now, hasn't worked really in our favor. Mm-mm. And so I'm excited about what this is going to look like.
Yeah.
As you bring it forward.
Oh my God. This is the thing. It's just like, I've learned so much. So like, look at the term aboriginal, right? Aboriginal. It wasn't original and then it became abnormal or aboriginal, which means that what was original and had no bounds, because what is unwritten is unlimited, which is why our common law rights are the common ground we walk on without limitation until someone tries to co-opt the term common law with a hyphen, or to make it English common law or King's common law or natural law. Right. All of those terms of which then actually make it a creation written by man that comes with limitations, liabilities, obligations, debts, and duties that are applied to the creations of the creator, because this is the hierarchy of creation, right? So God's on top. We were made in the likeness and image of the ones that created us, or the energy that created us. So like, let's just say, instead of God, because not everyone believes in that label or box, let's just call it energy. So the energy that created us then have made it so we wanted life to be easier for us. So we created a de jure government, which is of the people, for the people, by the people, serves the people. It's got the people in the mind. You know, we got the community of common unity in mind and at heart and our decision making, and we connect soul to soul and we look people in the eye, which when we actually think about the I plus the I on the page, and then notice that I did a lowercase I instead of a capital I, which would be how we would do it on the page, because that is to be maximally capitalized when we have an uppercase I instead of the lowercase that gives us the body and the head. But instead, when we're capitally maximized on, then the head is lopped off and we're boxed in top and bottom. So it's just the stick, and then we become more two-dimensional, which is what happens when the will is attacked, like is happening now, right?
So true.
But the crazy thing is we've been talking about, now they're calling it legacy media, right? So legacy media, and then we've got the new age media, or whatever it's being called, right? New age of wisdom. People need to stop getting so offended. But if your panties are in a bunch now, just wait, because shit's gonna hit the fan. But with, so capitis diminuitis maximus is basically maximally capitalizing on a man or a woman based on converting our status or our standing into a status. Let me pull this up for you because I feel like it's super important.
Sure.
Okay, and then I've got to go and expand and go and find everything. Wow, I am so grateful that you said yes, Katia, to doing this. So,
and I'm grateful for you inviting me and that we're able to do this together.
Yeah, sweet. Okay. Look at this. Let me start on something that we didn't talk about yet,
Sure.
but that is super, super, super relevant. What does that say?
Vex.
And what is the definition of vex, Katia?
It is make someone feel annoyed, frustrated, or worried, especially with trivial matters.
Mm-hmm. So it's to cause distress too.
Mm-hmm.
Or in 2012, there was a case law precedent called Meads versus Meads case law precedent that basically made it so that anybody that tried to use a trivial argument like common law, which was then said to be one of the limited common laws instead of the unlimited unwritten common law that we can choose from until we agree then to be limited by the common law that is put onto us as a jurisdiction we didn't know had a lesser standing than what we actually have available to us. So a limitation was imposed that we didn't catch. And so we accepted it, and implied consent means we deserve everything we get because Black magicians cast their spells and then let us walk straight into the trap, right? So case law precedent set in 2012 by the man acting as Justice Rook in Alberta made it so that one could be deemed a vexatious litigant, also known as OPCA litigant, organized pseudo-legal commercial argument litigant, is another term for vexatious litigant, making someone feel annoyed, frustrated, or worried, especially with trivial matters like our unlimited rights as men and women who stand on common land together. Because lawyers are forgetting at the end of all of this, they're just men and women that live in the community too. And when the money dissolves because the system collapses, because everyone has been taught to vest our authority, which is the author I tie my identity to, when it goes away or changes, and men and women aren't used to that because everything has been set up for us to find identity in something that is not based on anything, because the fiat currency literally only has one line instead of two in the dollar, because it's not backed by anything compared to a lawful monies, which has two lines through the dollar, not just one. Like,
wow.
What? So
yeah, what?
Right? I'm looking for, oh my God, do you know the stand-up lyrics by Cynthia Erivo? Do you know it? You know that
No.
I've been obsessed with this song. It's like, I've been walking with my face turned to the sun, weight on my shoulders, a bullet in my gun. I don't know these words specifically, but like I'm not getting the tune right. It's just like this is the part. That's when I'm gonna stand up, take my people with me. Together we are going to a brand new home, far across the river. Can you hear freedom calling, calling me to answer? Gonna keep on keeping on. So this
Yes.
song I have been totally obsessed
Love it.
with. It's just like I've been playing it on repeat. And Harriet Tubman is said to have said her final words to be, I go to prepare a place for you. And so Cynthia has this just incredible song that I highly, highly, highly recommend checking out. Oh my God. And then Rise Up. Do you know that song by Andrew?
Yes.
Oh my God, that's a good one as well. So we don't need to sing that one, but all we need is hope, and for that we have each other. So on that note, what I wanted to do and why I brought you here in the first place is because I wanted to share with you the Capitis. Oh shit, my spilled coffee in that moment. Why? did
Oh
that work?
dear.
How did that work? That it was just in that moment when I shared something that is very impactful and significant to actually potentially change someone's life, to see how they have been maximally capitalized. And then I friggin' spill my coffee. This is,
Well, I'm going to remember it now.
yeah, well, it's seriously part of like the most powerful information. So this has the 3 definitions. So capitis diminuita or diminutio maxima is when it's maximally capitalized. So the highest or most comprehensive loss of status. This occurred when a man's condition was changed from one of freedom to one of bondage, when he became a slave. It swept away with it all rights of citizenship and all family rights. Now, capitis diminutio media is a lesser or medium loss of status. This occurred where a man lost his rights of citizenship, but without losing his liberty. So it carried away also the family rights, which makes me think that like the media is when you get married, for instance, and your status changes. Like, is that kind of like what the medium removal or loss of status would be the equivalent of?
It seems so. It seems so.
I don't have all the answers, but I think that it's significant that we have been warned about the media and then never in this context though, right? Like we don't know that it's a lesser or medium loss of status. We don't think about the fact that the television, the vision, or the tell lies vision, we don't realize that it came into the comfort zone of the people's homes after the last war, when the Nazi operation went covert.
Interesting.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Capitis diminutio minima is the lowest and least comprehensive degree of loss of status. This occurred where a man's family relations alone were changed. It happened upon the arrogation of a person who had been his own master, which is the sui juris, because juris is of law or of right, and sui is under. So it's under your own masterhood or under your own rule or reign, or upon the emancipation of one who had been under the patria potestas. It left the rights of liberty and citizenship unaltered. So I think this is actually where the marriage comes in, because it's a minimal shift compared to a medium loss of status where you become a prisoner, like what I was within the mental health system, for instance. I still seemed like, you know, a privileged white girl from a good family that got locked up and then wouldn't be allowed out because the system turns the tribe against the individual, like what we've seen in the public now. But previously, it was only select individuals that experienced it in the private and then didn't know how to actually share the experience because of how traumatic and triggering it is, right?
Right, right.
So patria potas or potestas, that actually, I looked up that meaning. Would you know? It means power of a father.
Wow.
Yeah, so power of a father in Roman family law, power that the male head of a family exercised over his children and his more remote descendants in the male line, whatever their age, as well as over those brought into the family by adoption. So the power of the family, the power of the father is actually why our last names are the only part of our names that's a legal name. Did you know that?
No.
Yeah, so the first names are God-given names. And then the last name is the Roman surname. So this is the power of a father. So the father is actually the head of the household that claims those who fall under the heading of the household. So it's the status, it's like it's the larger box within the government that then imposes its identities onto you, because now you're under the house of Hamilton, was the house I was born into. And I've never been married, so I've never changed house. And I don't know that that's actually my deal ever generally anyway, but the point is, like, it's just like, born a Hamilton, stay a Hamilton, like, leave this place as the same, but just grew into my name because I went down to Laura J, which was all inclusive. A, because it's Laura Jean Ellen Hamilton. So then I got my L and then the J and the E and the H for Laura J, namaste. Namago is my tagline, you know, but anyway, so yeah, if we kind of like start breaking down the fact that there is a joinder in our first name, which is our God-given name, which was given by our Father, who art in heaven, who assigned his benefits to his offspring. And then the offspring created the government to make life easier for us. But the ones that worked for the organization that was created then wanted to absorb the individual into the corporeal body. And then the corporeal body is consisting of or relating to a physical material body. So not spiritual. Some few traces of a diviner nature which look out through his corporeal baseness. So basically, corporeal reality are those experiences that are bounded or bonded by the physical reality in which our physical body is located. So although the boundary between the unreal and the corporeal is becoming blurred, the distinction is still located in the physical body we inhabit as human beings. What does that mean?
What does that mean? I'm reading it one more time.
Yeah.
By the physical reality in which our physical body is located. Although the boundary between the unreal and the becoming blurred, the distinction is still located on the physical body we inhabit as human beings.
Boxes within boxes. So the line between who I am as a woman and who I'm said to be as a person become blurred, so that there is a joinder made between my first names, my God-given names that are my divine inheritance, and then the joinder with the Roman last name, which is the legal name, that when the joinder is applied, then I am implied to be the person instead of the woman, which is why it's hard to say that I claim my name or right use of it, right?
Wow.
So basically, by making me a person or converting me into my person, it's like saying that because you see me in this platform, in this box, this is where I live. This is Laura JeH Hamilton. This is what I am all the time because you see me in here right now. It's the equivalent of with these mandates that were governmentally imposed from the bigger box that was then imposed onto each of the smaller boxes within the jurisdiction of the biggest box, which is the government corporation, right? But even within the government, we have a federal government, a provincial government, and a municipal government within where we live, right? You've got the local community, the larger community of the province, and then the larger community of the country. But Canada itself, each of the provinces actually became sovereign years ago. Each of the provinces are sovereign already. So the separatist movement is actually redundant because it's already separate. That's a separate corporation, which is the Corporation of Quebec, the Corporation of Ontario, the Corporation of Alberta, the Corporation of BC. They're corporations that are separate into and onto themselves because their box just got smaller, right? It's just like, this is the Canadian corporate government, and then you've got the provincial government, and then you've got the municipal government, and then you've got the cops courts councils that uphold the legislation for those corporations, and then you've got the corporations at the bottom that are the private sector of the public domain.
Wow.
And that's where we step in and use our name and hand to sign on behalf of the corpse and assume personal liability for all harm that is caused by the corpse, because we signed on behalf of it, therefore becoming half of it, and therefore being willing to use our blood, sweat, and tears in order to pay for the karmic consequences of what is applied to us in the status of employee or person that dropped our standing out from being a man or woman doing those things.
So is that where the term of earning a living stems from? We must earn our living versus that we were given our birthright. Our birthright is we have land, we have food. I look at the seed again. I'm going to look at seeds, and nature provided. It showed us that there's abundance, because when you plant a broccoli seed, that broccoli seed makes a broccoli head, and that broccoli head.
I even like turnip. Anyway, sorry.
And that broccoli head makes hundreds of seeds.
Yeah.
So right there, nature was able to provide more than enough. Yeah. And so, yeah, there's always been a question, or that's something that comes up for me as a question all the time. It's like the agreement that the earning, having to earn your way to food, your way to shelter, and we have all the resources and more than enough resources to create that for each individual, and how that's always been in my space. And you're kind of making sense out of this with all these terminologies and breaking it down. I can see now how it's all been orchestrated, let's say.
Well, you had mentioned birthright as well. And I don't know about you. Well, actually, you have better experience because you have 3 grown women as adults, as adult children.
Yeah.
So, like, you've given birth 3 times. Did you, like, pull up to the side of the dock and, like, move your ass over in order to make sure that you were fully docked before you off-boarded your passengers when you gave birth? Like a boat does? A boat gives birth?
No,
like you gave birth to life. Like you were the portal through which life was born. So being born and giving birth, or having birth given to you, is different.
Yes.
To be born and birthed is different. Then break it down to why I broke it down like offloading a passenger on a boat, about the birth that was so unexpected. Your cognitive dissonance for a moment was like, whoa, this is a really good idea, and this is all of my BS around what it means to give birth, and she just totally made sense, but that's a baby idea, and I don't know how that fits in my world, and I don't really like it, and wait a minute, this makes a lot of sense, and that's making that make sense, and that's making that, and that's how it happens, right?
Yeah, it's so true. So you're making a distinction then between birthing and born. Birthing in regards to it being related to the ship or boat. Is that something that the law has used, the ship terminology in itself? I find that there's a lot of similarities that they've used that relate to the ship.
You know why?
Is that true?
Yeah, because the W of law is water, which is Admiralty Maritime Law, which is contract law, where everything is an offer. To contract, an implied consent is what is given by those who do not contest that which is what is offered. right? So if you don't consent, if you don't contest it, it's implied consent, because the offer is sent. And then if the con for your consciousness and your conscience is not accepted, then a change offer needs to be presented if the offer is challenged. But if it's not, it's accepted. So there's maxims of law that are designed to make it so he who doesn't know is his own loss, his fault for not knowing better, his fault for not seeing that we've been deceived by the ultimate indoctrination. Systems, don't you see the craziness of this world we're in now? Sometimes I sing.
Keep going.
I love you. Oh, yeah, so Admiralty Maritime Law is the reason that we've got the mothership, citizenship, employment. So it's either ships or ments, right? Because the ments are the mental, which is why the mental health system is the trap to keep us out of our heart and in our head, right? Because if we're not in our heart, we don't have the activation of our desires, where the inspired ideas are able to come down through the crown into the intuition, which is the guide our soul hired ahead of time to lead us through this life, to then speak our truth and then feel our truth, see how it changes in that moment, and then be able to cross the bridge into the solar plexus, which is the self-esteem account, which is why when we, get betrayed, it's like, oh, I got kicked in the gut is what it feels like. Well, you just got hit in your power center of energy. Yeah. And then your sacral is your sex and money. And then your root is your sense of belonging in this world, right? So it's like we have to actually bring the inspired ideas down through the chakra systems and then bring them into the 3D through us, our hands, our loins. Thank the Lord it was you and not me, because I don't know about that for me. I don't know. It's, yeah. The whole notion of childbirth scares me. Childbirth, or giving life, giving birth to life, or I don't know how to move fast enough to catch up with all of the lies and be like, oh, correction, oh, correction. You know what I mean? Like, we're all doing our best, but it's a crazy reality to wake up to at best.
Very true. Absolutely.
So yeah, did you know about the law standing for 3 jurisdictions all in one at the same time?
No.
You said no. Thank you.
Tell me more.
I just had to decline a call. So anyway, land is the L for common law, because that's the common land that we walk on. And then A is for admiralty, or no. The A is for air, which is ecclesiastic or canon law. So the canons, that's like proper way, like the proper way to conduct yourself. So what is proper to you is your property. Your properties are what's proper to you, is how it's been explained in a natural law group where they disagree with what I claim. And I say, well, if any man or woman wants to claim opposite and prove it, then by all means take the stand and say it. But otherwise, don't you think that you're going to get to wear your suit and pretend you're better or less than what I am, because I am here too, and I am claiming compensation for being there on Friday when I go in for my hearing, if they actually send a judge or justice of the peace, because no man or woman wants to be attached to me now, because I've made a claim against the man acting as prosecutor for making a false claim in a public court against me. I will be doing the same with the court clerk, because she is not providing me with a judge, which means she's a public servant failing to perform her duty, which is punishable with jail time and imprisonment.
Wow.
Right? And then I've got other things in the works that have made it seem that like I've been doing a lot of work, but people don't see the results because they're not easily forthcoming because it's not convenient, right? Like, if one figures it out, it's like, I wish I had the Bug's Life scene that I could just pull up where the militant ant man, or no, he's a grasshopper. The militant grasshopper is just like talking about, keep them in line. If one wake up, they all have the potential to think they could do it too. Stop them. Kill it. Right?
It's incredible. So back to your point there so you're saying law stands for land, air, and water?
Yes.
Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
I'm blown away. Blown away.
Oh, do you want to know there's an added piece to that that's not commonly talked about as well. But the fact that it's not the court of laws, because the S is space, which is God's territory. So man is trying to put limitations on space with taking it over with satellites, for instance. But currently, space is still God's territory because it is unlimited and unexplored. Therefore, it is unclaimed. And what is not claimed cannot be stood on. Because that's what everybody that has used any notice of liability, for instance, needs to be aware of, is that those notices of liability are notices of claim. So you're claiming your beliefs, your belief systems that you are then going to be able to stand on in the court of law, not laws. You're going to be able to stand on your claims in the court of law, and then you use the common law to enforce the claims that you stand on as a native of the land that you were born on. That's our power position. I'm native to these lands. I was born here in London, Ontario. Thank you very much.
Yeah, as I was born here as well in Toronto, and then born and raised in Richmond Hill. Yep.
Wow.
Same.
Sweet. Yeah, you had a lot. See, I always wanted to be a city girl because I love people. Like, people. Right? I would be like a dog that's just like excited to see people when we go into town. but honestly, like, I was kept isolated out on the farm in many ways with small.
Same with me.
In Richmond Hill?
In Richmond Hill. We were actually northern Richmond Hill. It was literally, everyone used to joke because I was what, 4 or 5, and it was still underdeveloped. And everyone, my entire, both my mom and dad's side said, "Where are you moving to boonies?" That's what they would say about Richmond Hill, because it was at that time. We had 3 acres of land between us, and it was literally very isolated. And yeah, we were very sheltered.
Wow.
Yeah.
I would have had no idea. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, it was very sheltered there. And I grew up really in the fields with my sister and brother, and lots of imagination and not a lot of people. And yeah, it wasn't until my teens that we basically, I guess, drove our parents crazy and said, we can't do this any longer. So then we moved more into the city. And then that's when we really got to socialize.
Yeah. Oh my God, that's amazing. Now, we're coming up to the top of the hour.
Yeah.
And so I want to say a huge thank you for joining me tonight and for committing to walking us home to our heart center through the Kingdom Within podcast that we're going to now be doing Mondays at 8 o'clock together, which is even better. But what I would love to touch on next week, and I think that it's a good opportunity to kind of prepare and marinate in the question in the meantime, and for you who are watching this too, to really think about your own experience of the question. It's just breathing in the moment that it slips my mind and then goes somewhere else to find it. I was going to say about the experiences that you had growing up in a very religiously indoctrinated home, and then the way that you parented because of that influence, and then the shift that you actually went through about 2 or 3 years ago when you and your husband sold everything, moved to Costa Rica, and you had to change a tremendous amount of your own identity from being the responsible homeowner that's a mom of 3 girls to now suddenly being a wife and traveler and seeker of self, and really going on that journey of transformation. So next week, I'd really like to go more into your experience of even being homeless in your car for a short period, all relative though, because it wasn't just for one night, but many. And so, going through the identity upgrades that come from having lived that experience, and then having rose to a different perspective, having had it. So really looking forward to having Katia share more of your story, and then really go into some of the techniques that have been used in your personal practice to really support you through all that you've been through in what it took for you to become you.
And I can't wait to share that. I'm looking forward to meeting up again next Monday, and would love to share that with everyone. And if it helps anyone as well, I look forward to it.
Woo! Amazing. Wow. I am so excited. I just realized that I did not attend the program that I was supposed to be in at 6:30 till 8, and it totally slipped my mind because it was supposed to be on Fridays, and then it got moved to Mondays after it started. And so I just got the message to say the recording, and it was like, oh, oops. Okay. So that came in. So I'll remember next week that I've got something right before this. And then I am so excited to just hear more of your story, and to go deeper into that program as well that you shared with me. I feel very blessed to be connected to some incredible people. And so I have traveled the world in order to find some of the best players of the game of life, which is why Florence Scovel Shinn's book is normally on my bathtub. It's not my bathtub, it's actually on the back of my toilet. But what I would love, if you'd be open to it, is just to read just one little page piece about faith as we close out tonight. And so I would like to just read this, and then if you would like to add on what comes for you, and you'll close out our first podcast together with Katia Palmeri and Laura J on this February 7th of 2022. Faith. Hope looks forward. Faith knows it is already received and acts accordingly. In my classes, I often emphasize the importance of digging ditches or preparing for the thing asked for, which shows faith and brings the demonstration to pass. See The Game of Life and How to Play It, page 11. A man in my class, whom I called the life of the party because he always tried to find a question I couldn't answer, but he never succeeded, asked, "Why is it then a lot of women who prepare hope chests never get married?" I replied, "Because it is a hope chest, not a faith chest." The prospective bride also violates law in telling others about it. Her friends come in and sit on the hope chest and either doubt or hope she'll never succeed. Pray to thy Father which is in secret, and thy Father which seeth in secret shall reward thee openly. As the student should never talk of a demonstration until it has gelled or comes to pass on the eternal or on the external. So a hope chest should become a faith chest and be kept from the public eye, and the spoken word for the divine selection of a husband under grace in a perfect way. Those whom God hath Those whom God hath joined together, no thought can put asunder.
Wow. I love that. That's so powerful. And it's actually perfect because it's part of what I'll be talking to next Monday. It's the faith that was the transformational piece in my journey these last few years. So I was learning about letting go. I was learning to trust, and I was learning not to be coming from this concern and worry that I was typically coming from. And in that, miracles. So I can't wait to share next week the journey of faith. And yeah, just whatever I can share in regards to that. I can't wait.
Oh, I'm so excited. Thank you, thank you, thank you. It has been an absolute pleasure to share this hour with you. So thank you for tag teaming and co-hosting the moment with me. And look forward to being back with all of you next Monday for the next Kingdom Within podcast episode. Have a great night. Toodaloo.
Thank you.